Welcome everybody. So today I thought I would just kind of talk a little bit about why I love snakes so much and why I think they make excellent pets. So just to start off, this isn't going to be a care guide. If you decide to get a snake, look up the care requirements for your snake. Anything I mention that might be in reference to care requirements is more as a for instance, and it should be assumed, especially as this video gets older, that there's better information out there, and just make sure you're doing your own research rather than relying on just the video about why snakes are fun pets. Here today with me to help out, I've got my wife's ball python Slick Mister. Cute little baby. I know he's been in most of the videos recently. That's because Doc is currently going into shed, and I could have him out. He's not too nervous when I handle him in shed, but at the same time he does look less impressive, and it's all about the looks in this biz. So, which is why, of course, I'm in this biz, because I got such dashing good looks. Alright, so the first reason why I think snakes are cool, like the first thing that really got me into snakes, is just how different they are from us. They have scales, they have forked tongues that they smell with, they never blink, they may have some vestigial legs, such as this little guy. You probably won't be able to see them on camera, but he's got two little tiny claws sticking out back here on either side of his cloaca. Those are called spurs, and they are what's left of his legs. But they don't really do much for him to get around. And so, yeah, one of the things that really draws people to snakes, I think, is that they're able to just move around without any limbs, and that's pretty mesmerizing to watch. And they're also able to eat food bigger than their own head, which is just something I can't even begin to relate to. They eat one meal a week or less sometimes, sometimes more. Depends, again, not a care guide. Look up what your snake needs for its species and age and size and all of that good stuff. But for a lot of situations, a lot of snakes, their feeding schedule is measured on the scale of days to more often weeks, especially for adults. So that is definitely one thing that one way where they're very different from us is how rarely they eat. Another reason snakes are really cool, in my opinion, is just all the cool different colors and patterns. This is a morph ball python. He's pastel, hidden gene, woma, and then fire/vanilla. Which I believe means he could be either fire or vanilla. I'm not fully informed on how morphs work. But he is an incredible looking little fella. My corn snake looks phenomenal. Even like simpler looking snakes that don't have as much pattern to them, like, still have really vibrant colors a lot of the time. And yeah, you can find some really beautiful looking snakes. So that's, one of the big reasons, I think, to appreciate snakes. I mean, just look at this guy. Just look at that pattern. I get to watch this guy grow and get bigger and become an adult snake. I get to take him out and look at this pattern every day. So handling snakes, super relaxing, just super fun. Like, it feels neat. It can feel gross if you're terrified of snakes, but once you get past it, like my wife less than a year ago held my corn snake at the pet store where I got him from, and he was an adult corn snake, or at least sub-adult by the time I met him. So he was bigger than this, and my wife held him, and he was moving around a little bit, and she just couldn't deal with the feeling of all of his muscles through him, through his belly scales. But after she got used to it, she ended up wanting a ball python for Christmas this year. So it very quickly, even if you find it alarming and unappealing at first, it can very quickly grow on you. Anytime I've had a stressful day at work, like I just wrap a snake around me, start to feel better. They are just so relaxing to hold. And also, like, the scales feel like just have a terrific texture to them. Next reason snakes are great pets is they are incredibly fun to watch. Um, like I've mentioned before, the way they move is just on its own fascinating. Watching them explore their enclosures, because they perceive the world differently from us. For them, the chemosensory cues are a huge deal. Their tongues are always going whenever they're not scared, at least, and not sleeping. And so, seeing how that changes the way they approach things, it's just really interesting to watch them go about their lives. So, for care reasons, they eat and excrete rarely, which I love. Like I said before, you feed them on a scale of days or more often weeks, and they poop at about that rate. They pee a little bit more often than that, but still not very often. It's, I don't want to oversell the care requirements for snakes and make them sound too easy, because I have seen a lot of pictures of neglected snakes online, and pet stores will sell you snakes and they'll tell you it's easier than it actually is. And don't get me wrong, snakes are still, like, they're so much easier than my dog or cat. Just make sure you're giving them the care they actually need. Don't put a ball python on aspen unless you live in the middle of a rainforest and your humidity is going to be fine on aspen. But, like, I see people living in dry places putting ball pythons on aspen, and that causes them to dry out, and they're like, why am I having shedding issues? So make sure you're meeting the care requirements of your snake. And, maybe for your location, those care requirements might be very difficult. If you live in the middle of a desert, maybe getting a ball python would be a problem for you. Maybe you can't get that humidity up high enough. That's something you'd have to experiment with on your in your own home and figure out what you're able to manage for humidity. Maintenance is generally pretty simple with these guys. Just cleaning a little bit. They poop less often than dogs and cats. They eat less often than dogs and cats. You still have to give them fresh water pretty regularly, but that's not really a huge problem. And yeah, about once a month, I at least for this guy, my corn snake is in a bioactive enclosure, which I don't replace the substrate in, but for him I replace his substrate once a month. And that's most of what I have to do for these guys. I don't have to trim their nails. I can go a day or two without interacting with them at all. Of course I never would, because I have snakes, because I hate going a single day without ever interacting with a snake. So I interact with them daily, but even if I didn't want to, like, they would be okay. So one of the ways I've started thinking about pets is how rewarding a pet is and how much enjoyment you can get out of a relationship with an animal versus how much chores that animal creates for you. You can have a great relationship with the dog. You just have to be ready to feed the dog every day, take the dog outside multiple times a day. You have to trim the dog's nails. You have to walk the dog. You have to give the dog attention every day. You have to play with the dog. You, if you have a busy day, your dog will let you know that it's not happy with you. If I have a busy day and I can't get to this little guy, he doesn't mind. So when it comes to considering the balance of amount of new chores you're giving yourself versus the amount of new enjoyment and enrichment you're giving yourself, I think snakes just can't really be beat on that ratio. They are terrific in that regard, in my opinion. So another thing I love about having snakes is the enrichment options that you have for them. So over here, I have the snake playpen with a bar stool, a little bird ladder, and a bunch of boxes and stuff. And snake enrichment is very easy to come by. You give them, so in my house, we don't get rid of any toilet paper or paper towel tubes until a snake has had a chance to play in them. Usually we leave them in the playpen until the snake pees or poops in them. Now the reason why these are cut, you notice he's actually kind of conveniently folded right now. So if this weren't cut, you see how he's a little too thick for this here? It's possible for a snake to start going through something, turn around part way, and then double over themselves inside a hole that they're big enough to go through once. Their body can fit through it a single time, but they can't fit two of their body in at the same time. And once they double over, they're trying to fit two of their body into a hole that's only big enough for one of their body, and they can get stuck. So I just always cut my paper towel and toilet paper rolls for them. You probably won't have an issue if you don't cut them. I would say just keep an eye on your snake. And I'm just doing that out of an abundance of caution. But either way, the bar stool is really fun to watch them climb. They love that thing. And yeah, just sticking your snakes in a playpen can be a really great way to watch them explore and check out new situations. That can be really terrific. Okay, so let's go over some of the cons to keeping snakes. The biggest thing, the thing I hate the absolute most, is the hardest part for me, is that sometimes your snakes will be digesting or they will be going into shed. And when they're digesting, you need to leave them alone at least for 24 hours. They need to have time without you interfering with them to just go and rest and digest. If they don't have time to do that, the meat inside of their body, the dead rodent or whatever you feed your snake, the dead animal inside the prey item could spoil, go rotten, and that could make your snake sick or even kill them. So you need to leave them alone while they're digesting. And you don't necessarily need to completely leave them alone when they're going into shed, at least in my experience. My corn snake doesn't really mind being interacted with when he's going into shed. But it's something to be mindful of, and if your snake is hesitant to be around you or acting defensive or trying to get away when they're in blue, which is the term for when their skin and eyes go cloudy before a shed, then I'd recommend leaving them alone. And that's one of the cons to having snakes, is there are times where you just have to let your snake be and you can't hold them. Alright, the next con about keeping snakes, and this is a big one for a lot of people, is that you, for most snakes at least, need to feed them dead rodents. And sometimes you have to feed live rodents. It's best to do everything you can to avoid feeding live, but sometimes it can't be avoided, and even when it can, I don't feel terrific about the fact that there's a bag of dead rodents in my freezer, and I don't feel terrific that they had to die to feed my snakes, but at the same time, I eat chicken nuggets. I eat there's chicken nuggets in the freezer with the rodents. Just because I can't see the face on the chicken nuggets anymore doesn't mean it's any less animal meat. And I'm not personally vegetarian or vegan. That's more so a self-control issue than a philosophical issue. I definitely agree that it's better not to eat meat, but these guys, they kind of don't have a choice. I get my rodents from a local breeder who breeds and euthanizes the rodents on site. So I'm able to support that local business, and I'm able to rest comfortably knowing where my rodents come from. But there's also online vendors that are very reputable that you can get rodents from. So as unpleasant as it is, to me, it's not really worse than meat that humans would eat, and you can get it sourced at least as ethically as you can for a dead animal. Not getting into the whole debate on the ethics of meat there, but if we take meat as a given, you can get some pretty ethically sourced rodents. All right, another con that I personally really had was finding a veterinarian. I looked up veterinarians near me and just started going down the list, calling them. They all said they don't take snakes. Some of them said this other veterinarian takes snakes. Call the other veterinarian. We don't take snakes anymore. Maybe try this place. I must have called like 50 veterinarians. Maybe not 50. I called a lot. What eventually worked for me was I looked up my local herpetological oh my God. My herpetological sus. So what worked for me to find a veterinarian was I looked up my local herpetological society, and they had a list of reptile vets near me. I found the closest one, gave them a call. The first and closest one I called said that they could get me scheduled. I forget exactly how far out they were scheduling, but it was pretty quickly that I was able to get in. If you want to get a snake, you need to have a vet. And if you're having trouble finding one, I would suggest checking the website for your local herpetological society. Let's see. Another con, they can poop on you. This little guy poops on my wife too much. He's done it twice now. My other snake poops in the playpen. It's the only place he pooped in his enclosure once, maybe twice after I first got him. But after that, playpen, just all the time, every time, which I don't mind. It's easier to clean, but I gave him a bioactive enclosure so that the bugs in there could eat the remnants of his poop. Like, you still pick up the poop, but any little residue that gets left behind, the bugs can eat that, and then anything that the bugs don't eat, the plants can use. And he's just not giving them anything, which, is fine. The bugs and plants, I give the bugs food, and the plants are plants, so they'll be fine, but it's why do I bother? I give him such a I guess it does make him smell like a forest after a fresh rain, so not a total loss. Okay, and finally, I just want to end on the note that snakes are not a great pet for everyone. There are a lot of neglected snakes out there, and it seems like a lot of people, they see a snake, they decide that they think they're cute now. I mean, can you blame them? Look at this little guy. Look at this guy. Yeah, don't look at me. Look at him. Are you looking? Look at him. Such a cute little man. You cute little fella. Alright, anyway. But if you're not willing to do the research beyond just what the person at the chain pet store tells you, then they're not the right pet for you. It's not like, I mean, not to undersell the care requirements for cats and dogs, because I have a special needs cat, but most people have grown up around cats and dogs. They're familiar with what cats and dogs need, and, cat and dog basic care, hasn't changed a whole lot. If you're not ready to give the snake the care they need, which I would say is easier than the care a dog or cat needs, but it's less obvious to us humans what a snake might need than it is to figure. Like, if you see a dog shivering, you know that your dog is cold. Snakes can't shiver. Snakes don't blink. Snakes can't close their eyes. So it's really a completely different body language and just way of being that you have to get used to reading. All right, and then the last reason why a snake would not be the right pet for you is if you are afraid of snakes. I know I just put out my most recent video is about what to do if you've already gone out and bought the snake and you're afraid of the snake or you don't know what you're doing or stuff like that. And I definitely don't condone doing that. The video is there for once someone has already made the mistake and they have the snake and they're overwhelmed not knowing what to do. But really, you should do all of that beforehand. And one of the things you need to do beforehand is make sure you're comfortable doing what I'm doing here. This little guy, I could hold him all day. He might get a little annoyed at being held all day because he's still a baby and he's still getting used to handling by people. But personally, I would be thrilled if he would let me hold him all day. There's also the fact that he's nocturnal. My corn snake's diurnal. He'll let me hold him all day, and sometimes I do hold him all day, and we have a terrific time. You don't necessarily have to hold your snake all day. Some keepers try to hold their snake as little as possible just because they prefer to see more natural behavior. They'd rather not have the personal relationship with the animal. They'd rather see the animal behave the way it would with as little interference from humans as possible. And that's a perfectly fine way to keep them. But those keepers will take their snakes out and handle them when it's important for the health of their animal. So you have to be able to be comfortable doing this before you can get a snake. If you're not comfortable doing this, but you still think you want a snake, go to a local reptile store, find a friend who has reptiles, and just let them know you think you want to get a snake, you think you want to overcome your fear of snakes, and just spend some time holding some other people's snakes. You don't have to jump right in head first into getting your own snake. Make sure you're comfortable with them, and then consider if you want to have one inside your house. But if you're still afraid of a snake, it's not time to get one, because you have to be ready for the fact that this guy could bite me. He's got his mouth right next to my finger. If he wants to bite me, he can, but he's not going to. Maybe he will. I don't know. I'm not inside his brain. And that's just something you kind of have to be comfortable with. And if you're not, then you need to work on building that confidence and then think about whether you're ready to take care of a snake. Alright, so those were some of the reasons why I think snakes make, in my opinion, the best pets in the world. They are just terrific. Overall, I think snakes are fascinating, incredible to look at and interact with. And once you understand their needs and you're meeting their care requirements, it's pretty easy to continue to meet those requirements and keep your snakes healthy. Again, as long as you know what you're doing with them. So was there anything I missed? Is there anyone who has any other reasons why snakes are excellent pets? I'd love to hear thoughts in the comments. Drive up that engagement. Leave a like. Leave a subscription. Subscribe to the channel. That's what it is. To be a subscriber to me. Thank you. I'd love that. And he would too. Do it for him. Do it for this little guy here. Look at him. Look at him. He's so cute. He's a cute little man. Look at that little tongue go. Bye.